If you take your eyes and look, you'll find whatever you're seeking in a magazine or book. There's books for him and books for her and books for you and me. You'll find good books for everyone at your library. La 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 la.
People, please pipe down. I'm trying to read. This is a library.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Lauren's Library. I'm your host, Lauren, and I am here to talk about book stuff. So grab a seat, grab some coffee, grab a blanket, or grab the steering wheel if you're driving, because I'm still not paying for your accidents even in season 2. But get comfortable, because we have a lot to talk about. And if you feel the need to make eye contact with me while listening to this episode, I am on YouTube now. Isn't it great? It's amazing. I know, it's great. I am on YouTube under the channel name The Bookie Babe. Yes, my logo is behind me if you do decide to go look. But I am on YouTube and it's great. You know, we are moving upwards and forwards here in 2024. So yes, go check me out over there if you're interested. If not, that's cool. I can just talk to you while you're doing other stuff. That's fine too. And if you haven't already, go grab my debut novel from Amazon. Or if you're local, go to Barnes & Nobles in Greenville, North Carolina, and grab a copy there. The reviews for it have been super positive lately. And, I'm super excited about that. I told myself I wasn't going to look at the reviews, but I lied. I'm looking at them. And so far, they have been really positive. So I'm super excited about that. But, yeah, go grab it. And if you're waiting for the audio for that book, give me a little bit of time. I'm working on it, and it's a whole process. Like, I did not realize what, audiobooks took, how much production goes into it. And it's definitely been a learning experience. Amazon has a lot of guidelines, and I'm kind of wondering how some of y'all got some of y'all's books passed, because I can tell you there have been a few where I've heard the narrator swallowing or taking a breath or turning the page while they're reading, and I'm trying to figure out how y'all got past Amazon, because they got quite a few regulations and guidelines that you got to follow. So how you slip that in there? Let me know. I might be being kind of shady. It's possible. But if you are waiting for the audiobook for The Memory Concierge, hang tight. It's coming. We are working with a limited amount of staff here. So it's moving a little slower than usual, but we're going to get it out there. And when we do, all y'all better listen, or we're going to fight. You'll probably win, but we're going to fight. Okay, great. So anyway, in this episode, we have a lot of things that I want to talk about. There is a husband that is the source of all of his wife's stress on the internet with her book. And then I wanted to talk about the McClain Brothers Series that I read by Alexandria House. And I have a short story for you guys. I think I might do another installment of the Deranged Disney thing. So yeah, get comfortable. I'll give you a second to get situated, and then we can get back into it. I was scrolling on Twitter and I saw a few people talking about the situation, and I wanted to look into it because, why not? A woman who did not give her name wrote into a column on, I think it's called The Cut by Emily Gould. It's Gould. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm sorry. But she has an advice column, and this person, this unnamed author, wrote into the column to look for advice. And I have the letter that she wrote in, and I just wanted to share it with you guys. And then I'm going to offer my own sort of kind of advice. It's not really advice. It's more so asking questions, but I'm going to offer mine. She ain't asked for it, but that's okay. 2 for the price of 1. Bargains. So let's get into it. Okay, I gotta grab it on my phone because it's kind of long, but okay. It goes like this. Dear Emily, after many years of struggle, I recently published my latest novel. Great news, it's a hit. Well, it's not a massive hit, but it has gotten very good reviews. It has won a few awards and has sold more copies than both of my other books combined. With all of these wonderful things happening for my career, I know I shouldn't dwell on the negativity I have received on the internet. That's facts. But anyway, but I can't help it. There has been so much viciousness towards the book, some of it quite personal, on Twitter, Goodreads, Amazon, and other corners of the internet. All of that hatred has driven me to tears more than once. Through it all, my husband, who is also a writer, has been super supportive. He was by my side during the long and arduous writing process, happily clinked champagne glasses with me as the book started to draw attention and accolades he could never dream of for himself, and patiently held the camera while I recorded my promotional TikToks. Most importantly, he has held my hand and comforted me through all of the online harassment. I couldn't have done it without him. Or so I thought. For reasons too complicated to get into, I'm starting to strongly suspect that my husband has been using an array of anonymous accounts to post some of the most negative and cruel comments about the book. In fact, I believe he may be the main source of the hatred that has been directed towards me, likely driven by jealousy that I've achieved something he never could. Unfortunately, I am only 85% certain that I'm correct. In the past, our marriage suffered when my husband discovered that I had been snooping on his computer and in his private things. And I know that if I were to confront him about my suspicions, he would accuse me of invading his privacy once again. Although this is not the case, I would have a great difficulty explaining myself. But lately, I can't even look at him without feeling sick to my stomach at the thought of what he might be writing about me and my book. I have even fantasized about hiring a private investigator to discover the truth. I can't go on like this. What should I do? Signed, Sleeping with the Enemy. Okay, so first of all, that's a lot to digest. When I first read it, my immediate thought was like, excuse me, how dare you? Your husband is your online bully? Like, divorce him right now. What are we waiting on? But, I mean, assuming that the story is actually real and not something written by Emily for the cult. Not the cult. Assuming this is not something written by her just to generate reviews, because that does happen. Once I got my initial, shock out of the way, I had some follow-up questions, because if you really take a look at what she was saying, some don't seem right. And let me explain. Okay, so first of all, this letter leaves out some pretty important points, important details, I'd say. And I know that they said that it was too complicated to explain, but why they believe their husband is bullying them online is I mean, we kind of need the logic for that. We kind of need the proof for that. If you have reasons, we kind of need to know what they are. Because considering how supportive he was from the jump, it's odd without some kind of explanation to go from, yeah, he was super supportive to he's bullying me online. Like, how do we get there? How do we get there? How do we get from point A to F? Like, I need to know, you know? And also, I missed that part about you snooping through his stuff before and it causing an issue between the two of y'all. What was you snooping for, ma'am? Why? What was you snooping about? What was it? What caused that? Does he have a history of being shady, being sneaky, doing questionable things? Like, because there's already obviously like a level of mistrust there that kind of doesn't really fit with what this letter is saying. I mean, it would make sense if you already don't trust him because of something he'd done in the past. It would make sense that, you know, now you're suspecting him of being the one to, like, be the source behind all of those profiles that are bullying you or whatever. That would make more sense. But again, you painted him as like this super supportive, super amazing, super like willing to help husband in the beginning of the letter, and then without any reason or preamble or anything, you just kind of switched and was like, yeah, he's bullying me online, and I don't like. I want to hire a private investigator to come after him. Like, why? And also, like, to just assume that your writing has reached levels his will never reach seems a bit shady to me. I know that's a small point there, but I was just kind of like, when I was reading it, I was like, wait a minute. Like, you know, you said specifically that your book has reached, like, it has received accolades and reached levels that he could only hope to achieve and, like, reached a status that he would never get. And I'm like, how do you know this, ma'am? Are you just assuming that his writing is not as good as yours? because that's not cool. That's actually very rude, you know. And if it's like a, you know, you went viral on TikTok or whatever, if that's the accolades and attention that you are saying that he could never hope to achieve, you can't guarantee that. Books be going viral on TikTok all the time. Or Book Talk, whatever. They be going viral all the time. And 9 times out of 10, they be mad mediocre books. So just because you have this attention doesn't necessarily mean that you are a better writer than him. That's kind of messed up. But I don't know. Again, if he has a history of being shady, then this makes sense. But if he doesn't, I don't understand where this like mistrust is coming from. Like where this unfound paranoia is coming from. Like, go sit on somebody's couch if this is the case. Like, if you are this paranoid about your husband and he has not given you a reason to mistrust him or anything of that nature, go sit on somebody's couch. Plain and simple. And maybe that's a little rude, but I mean, I'm just being honest here. Like, because that's some heavy hitting, that's some heavy level, like, accusations that you're making here. And if you don't have any evidence or anything to back it up, you just suddenly woke up one day and was like, yup, it's my husband doing it. I know for a fact. Like, if that's the case, then you got some stuff you need to work on. I mean, wow. Okay? But on the chance that it is your husband doing this, that is wild to me. Because my husband is like the first person that saw all of the processes of like what happened with my book. Like, from the day that I sat down next to him on my 29th birthday and was like, hey, I've given myself a year. I want to write a book. He was there from that moment. He was there during like all of the nights where I had to, like, I stayed up all night trying to figure out how to book format, or like he was there when I was so gripped with anxiety that I couldn't even open the email from my editor that had the first draft edits in it. I sat on that email for like a month, almost 2 months, a month and a half, almost 2 months actually, until, you know, he finally talked me through opening it. Like, he was there, like, when I was racking my brain trying to figure out how I wanted to tell the story and how, like, I wanted to write it, how I wanted it to go, like, plot twists that I wanted to do, and I didn't know how to make it work. He was there during all of that, just like I'm sure that your husband was there for you during all of your, like, struggles with writing a book. He was there for you, and he's also a writer. So if this is your husband doing this, and he is like a writer, so he knows like on all sides of it, like he saw you struggle and he knows what it's like to struggle himself, and then to like make you cry and not feel any remorse about it, sociopathic behavior. Like, leave him, run away quickly, because first of all, it's already upsetting to make someone that you're supposed to care about cry. It's like be the reason for their tears and their sadness. And you see that and you're just like, well, like, that is villain behavior. 100%. Okay. So if this is truly him, if this is actually your husband doing this, you need to pack a bag and run. 100%. And if it is him doing this, to him, I would say, I wish you nothing but sadness and misery. Like, seriously, like, what's wrong with you? But it also brings up the point, like, it seems so common these days where, like, authors, they put out a book and they feel threatened by others, or, like, if their book is not getting the attention that they think is appropriate, they feel threatened by people that are, like, writing in the same genres, minding their business, okay? But they're, like, writing books in the same genre. Instead of working on their own craft or like learning how to strengthen their own pen, they go and bully the people that they feel threatened by. What is that? Why is that the common practice these days? Because that makes absolutely no sense. If you are writing something and you don't feel confident enough in it, then that means there's something that you need to fix. It has nothing to do with these other people over here who have written and published their books and are out here minding their own business. To go bully them because you aren't confident in your own self is nuts. And I talked about it in the last episode of season 1. It was back in December for Kate Corain. She was an author that published a book. Well, was getting ready to publish a book, actually. She hadn't even put it out yet. And she felt threatened by like Black authors and authors of color in her genre. And instead of just minding her own business and realizing that she was traditionally published and was going to have the backing and support and marketing that none of these other books had, instead of just resting in that, she decided to go bully them and like 1-star review them because she couldn't handle the idea that someone would be better than her. And that makes no sense to me. I do not understand why that is such a common practice. Y'all need to get it together. You're giving authors a bad name. Not all of us are out here doing this. Why are you like bullying people that you think are better than you? Go write better books if that's how you feel. It's really that simple. Take a class, do a workshop, practice, enter some contests, something. Get some more editors, get a beta team, beta readers team, get an ARC team, people that can read the book and tell you how to make it better or give you feedback on it so that you can strengthen your own pen instead of attacking people for doing that process already, for making sure that their pen is strong. It's so strong to the point where you sick to your stomach because they wrote something that you don't think you can compare to. That makes no sense to me. I don't understand it. And I didn't mean to go on such a tangent, but that whole idea just really gets under my skin because one, if this woman's husband is the one that is bullying her after he has seen firsthand how hard it is to write a book, and he knows how hard it is because he's written his own books, if he is actually genuinely, like if this is not just unfounded paranoia, if he is actually bullying her like that and 1-star reviewing and talking badly about her to the point where he makes her cry and feels no remorse about it, run. There's really nothing else we have to talk about. Pack your little bag, wait till he goes to work, and then get out of there. Cause, wow, that's nonsense, absolute nonsense. I don't understand that, and I hope I'm making sense because this whole kind of like bullying people for doing something that you're doing because you don't feel as confident in your own stuff is just, I don't understand it. And it irritates me every time I hear it. Like, write better books. Simple solution to this issue. If you don't feel like your book is better, work on it. And also, to this unnamed author, if reviews are going to send you into that much of a tizzy, and I say this as someone who has been stalking the reviews ever since I pressed published on mine, if reviews are going to send you into that much of a tailspin to where you are like doubting your own husband and feeling paranoid and like obsessing about it, don't read the reviews. And I'm not victim blaming. I'm not saying that, you shouldn't have read it anyway. But literally though, if reading the reviews, like if your self-esteem and your self-confidence and your trust in your own writing is that fragile to the point where people who post something negative about it can like break you like that, then don't read the reviews. It's just that simple. Reviews are not for us anyway. The reviews are not for the authors. The reviews are for the readers. I say this, again, as someone who is reading absolutely every word of every review written about my book. But I know that whenever I do stumble upon a negative one, because I do know they're coming, whenever I stumble upon a negative one, I can't retaliate. And I can't let it shake me so bad that I never want to write again, Like, if it's going to shake you, don't look at them. But if you can actually view this criticism and take it and make something positive out of it, absolutely do it. But if you gonna be sitting up in the middle of the night staring at the ceiling because you can't fathom the idea that no one would like your book, then you don't need to read the reviews. Just press send, press publish, and then go on about your business. Act like it was never there. That's just my 2 cents. She ain't asked for it, but that's okay. I gave it to her anyway. You're welcome. So, now that we've talked about that, I want to move on to another topic that I wanted to bring up, and I feel like I might get some slack for this or get some heat for this, but that's okay. I'm willing to stand 10 toes down on my opinion, and I'm gonna say it with my chest. Judge your mama, don't judge me, But in this next section, I want to talk about romance novels, and specifically Black romance novels. So it's something a little bit lighter than what we just talked about. I'm gonna go ahead and give you a second to roll your shoulders back, wash that toxicity off of you, and then we can get into it. Okay? You got Couple of seconds. Go. Okay, so I have been trying to dibble and dabble in more romance lately. If you've been with me since the beginning, you know that thrillers and suspense novels, that's usually my bag. It's not really romance. Because they be wanting to throw dicks around and then I just get uncomfortable. So I kind of avoid romance. But recently, I was like, you know what? I'm grown. I'm an adult. I'm gonna try it out. I'm gonna try it out and see, because I'm sure there are books there that I would enjoy, other than just Kennedy Wright. You know, there's other authors out there. As good as she is, there are other Black romance authors out there. So I decided that I am going to try. My first was the New Haven series by J.L. Seegers. Loved that. I was surprised at how much I enjoyed that, but I really liked it. It was Restore Me was the first one, Revive Me was the next, and then I can't remember the last of the little part 2 that was in there. But there's 3 books total, and so good. That pen, Miss Seegers, your pen is immaculate. I enjoy it greatly. And I'm realizing about myself, you know, because we're growing. 2024 is about growing. I'm realizing that I actually don't mind smut. I know that's wild because I was reading and I was like, wait a minute. Am I enjoying myself? What? You know, because I'm always against smut. Put your cock back in your pants. Put your penis away. Put your clothes back on. We have stuff to do. You know, that's how I've always viewed smut. But actually, I enjoyed it in this book. And I'm realizing that if it has a point, then I don't mind it. You know, if it's not just dick for dick's sake, then I don't mind it. You know? And an example of books with dick for dick's sake is the McClain Brothers Series by Alexandria House. I don't know if any of you have read that series, but I did not enjoy myself. I guess that's the easiest way to put it. I didn't enjoy myself. I didn't at all. I wasn't bored. Okay, but I absolutely would not put this on a list of favorites at all. And that's okay. Just because I don't like it doesn't mean that you won't. I realize, for me, myself, that if I'm going to read a book where people are whipping out their private parts and doing the do, there needs to be a point. There needs to be plot. There needs to be a storyline. There needs to be something there. There needs to be substance. Okay? I haven't gotten to the point where I can just read about the peens for no reason. There needs to be a reason. So, in the McClain Brothers series, all of the siblings were rich in their own right. They had money. They all had money. I think the first one starts with Big South. He's a rapper. He had a lot of money. He meets a nobody, pretty much, basically. Well, yeah, he meets a nobody. And then falls madly in love. And then is, they're on this, whirlwind romance where he's, taking her places, buying her things, helped her quit her job, all this other stuff. And I'm thinking that this is, a normal amount of time happening. But come to find out, it's only a couple of months. So they met each other. She hated him at first when she first met him. And then I blinked, and then they were having sex and were madly in love. And I'm like, wait, what did I miss? How did I, were there pages missing in this story? Is that why I don't understand how we got from point A to point F? How did we do that? How did we get here? Why are we here? Why are we naked? What's happening? You know, I was confused because it made no sense. And I understand the appeal because, you know, rich Black man, tons of money, you know, willing to whisk you away from your life of sadness and pump you full of luxury and expensive stuff. I get it, you know, but it just, to me, it wasn't realistic. And I think I need that realism if I'm going to read about the sexual nature of things. And hopefully YouTube doesn't ban my video for saying body parts so many times. But Yeah, in those books, it was really just like sex for sex sake. Like it was like simultaneously not enough happening and too much happening at one time. Like the plot wasn't going anywhere, but every possible dramatic situation that you could think about was being thrown at them at the same time. And it was a lot. It was a lot. It was a lot. And it's not for me. I'm finding out. I didn't enjoy it. I stuck with it for continuity purposes and because, I'm no quitter. No, it depends. But I wasn't a quitter. So I stuck with it so I could talk about it on this podcast. And also, I have a bone to pick with Miss House here because in one of the stories, I can't even remember which one because it all kind of bled together in one story eventually. She had a stripper called Snoop Dogg. And one of them was in a movie called Floetic Lustus. And I was ready to riot after hearing both of those because, excuse me, Snoop Dogg, Floetic Lustus, like we don't, are we, this is what we're going with. Of all the options, this is what we choose. Really? Yeah, so I didn't enjoy that. But again, my opinion is not law. Here on Lauren's Library, we take all opinions. Unless you're racist, then we don't take those. But we take opinions, especially about literature. If you like a book that I hated, that's cool. If I like a book that you hated, that's also cool. Your opinion is terrible, but no, I'm kidding. But it's fine. So I didn't enjoy it because I need plot. And in this whole series, it was kind of like plot, who was that? Storyline, don't know her. And it got a little irritating. And I had trouble suspending my disbelief with that because, like, let's be real here. Like, in a story, you meet a guy and, like, 2 months into the relationship, or 2 months into even knowing this person, they have, like, helped you quit your job. You're going with them on tour and all this other stuff. In a book, that's cool, but clearly in real life, that's love bombing and you need to run before you get hurt. Like, it's just... And they all did it. Like, in every single one of them books, they met and started having relationships and got married all in, like, a span of, like, less than a year. Less than 6 months for some of them. And that just, to me, I don't... Because, there was one story. I think it was the first one, actually, for Let Me Hold You? I don't remember the titles of the book. It was the first one. I'll put the first one in here so you can see it. But it was the first one. And this woman was abused by literally every single man in her life. Every single man in her life was hitting her at some point. And then she met the main character, the male main character in the story, and then hated him. And then all of a sudden loved him. Like, there was no trust issues. There was no nothing. Just loved him immediately. And I'm like, if every person in your life was beating on you and you just throwing your trust around like that, it just doesn't seem realistic to me. Like, if we're going to use this storyline, we need to use it correctly. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. But again, like, if you're not looking for realistic behaviors, if you here for a good time, not a long time, then you will absolutely love the series, and I think you should check it out. And if you do check it out, I think you should come back and tell me so we can talk about it. But either way, whether you like the stories or not, I'm going to judge you if you think Snoop Dogg and Floetic Lustus are good names. I'm going to judge you. I'm sorry. I try not to judge people, but I'm going to have to judge you for that because no. No. Okay? But also, check out the New Haven series by J.L. Seegers. So then we can talk about that too. Because, again, I was shocked at how much I enjoyed it. I was like, wait, this is actually really good. If all the books, the romance books are like this, then I can get with it. But they're not all like that, as I have come to find out almost immediately afterwards. So, if you do decide to check out any of those books, you make sure you hit me up. My socials are on the screen if you're watching from YouTube. And if you're not, then, I give you a list of my socials at the end. So you have no excuse to not find me after you've read these books. Okay? Cool. So, for this next section, for the short story section. On the first episode of season 2, I switched it up a little bit, gave y'all some poetry. But now we are back to our regularly scheduled programming. In the first 2 episodes of the first season of the podcast, like if you've been with me since the beginning, in the first 2 episodes, I did what I called Deranged Disney, which is where I took a Disney song and basically twisted it, kind of like the Grimm Brothers fairy tales, but like even more bad. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe there's a worse. I haven't read all of them, but it's kind of that vibe. And I did the story from the first 2 episodes of last season. I did We Don't Talk About Bruno. I did that story because at the time when I had originally written it, that song was everywhere because the movie had just come out. And it was playing on a loop in my head too, because it was one of my favorite songs from the book. Not the book, I'm sorry. Favorite songs from the movie. I loved Encanto completely, but that was one of my favorite songs. Like I was listening to it in the car on the way to the gym. It was that serious for me. So I decided to take that story and, twist it a little bit and be like, oh, this is why we don't talk about Bruno. Let me tell you, And I've actually gotten a few requests to do that again. So if you have any requests for Disney songs or movies that you would like me to ruin for you, leave a comment on the video. Or if you're listening, find me on my socials and let me know what you think. So for this one, I decided to do Be Our Guest by the Beauty and the Beast song. It's going to have to be like a 2-part series. Just basically, I'm going to do the first installment of the story in this one and then the next installment in the next episode. Only because in order for me to tell the story the way I want to tell it, or, to really give it everything I can, it's going to have to be a little bit longer than this episode will allow. But that does not mean I don't want y'all to know about it and I don't want y'all to experience it. So I'm going to bring it to you, but I'm going to chop it up in pieces. Okay? Cool. So go ahead and get yourself comfortable if you haven't done it already. And when you come back, it's going to be story time. It's a tale as old as time, a song as old as rhyme. You know how it goes. Well, you think you do. Legend has it, in the story of Beauty and the Beast, Gaston was the real monster, and the Beast was this wonderfully misunderstood creature with a heart of gold underneath a tough exterior. And Belle allowed herself to get kidnapped in exchange for her father's freedom and fell in love with the Beast because of his extensive library and talking inanimate objects. None of that is true. Things get lost in translation, especially when the story is told over and over again. Let me tell you what really happened. In reality, Belle's father had gone wandering off into the forest in search of her mother, who had run off with one of the townsmen years prior. It was a breakup that he had never been able to get over, and understandably so. Her mother was all he had known. Belle's parents had been high school sweethearts that got married immediately after they graduated. 2 kids that barely knew how to take care of themselves, convinced they could sustain or love and love alone, vowed to be with each other in sickness and in health, till death do them part. But neither one of them had anticipated how hard things would be afterwards. Her father had settled into a life of routine and comfort, while Belle's mother visibly longed for something more. They had never left their hometown, never seen anything, never seen the world, never explored. She had a desire to travel and experience different things, to see the world outside of the town she had always known. When she gave birth to Belle, she stuck around until Belle was a teenager, and by that time, depression and resentment had completely stolen her smile. And one night, while Belle and her father were both asleep, her mother packed a bag full of clothes, left a hastily scribbled note, and then ran off into the forest with a man she had seen on the side. A man that had promised her the world. That was the last that they had heard from her. Even though it had been years, the wandering had driven her father mad, and one cold night when Belle was 18 years old and fresh out of high school, he went wandering off into the woods in the same direction Belle's mother had supposedly gone. He hadn't been seen since. Heartbroken and completely alone, Belle had to figure out how to adjust to life without either of her parents. And she had. She'd gotten a job in the local library sorting books and was working on writing one of her own. Gaston was her best friend. They had met shortly after her father disappeared, and though he was rough at first, he had started to grow on her. They quickly became inseparable. Rarely was one seen without the other close by. Now, 5 years after her father had run off, Belle sat in her tiny apartment watching the newest episode of her favorite Netflix show while sorting through the mail. A small blue envelope caught her attention. "Hey, Gaston, did you see this invitation in the mail?" Belle asked, handing her best friend the flawlessly designed invitation. It was a simple cardstock with "Be Our Guest" in gold calligraphy lettering. Without really having to read the details, Belle knew exactly who it came from. The Beast. He had been trying his absolute hardest to lure her over there ever since her and her fiancé had split the year before. He'd somehow gotten the idea in his head that they were meant to be together and hadn't taken no for an answer since. At first, his perseverance was endearing, making Belle feel special. But it had quickly grown old. "Do you want to go?" Gaston asked, a small smile tugged at the corners of his mouth. He thought the Beast's crush was absolutely hilarious and loved to tease her about it whenever he could. Belle shot him a glare. "Not really." "Just go. Humor him this once, and maybe he'll leave you alone. Pick your nose or fart really loud in front of him and he'll be turned off." Gaston shrugged. Belle punched him lightly on the arm, her small fist barely grazing his thick bicep. "Ew, no, that's gross. Why should I have to go if I don't want to?" "He seems really intent on getting you to his house. Maybe he's your Prince Charming under all that mangled fur." Belle stared at him, waiting for him to laugh and admit that he was only joking. But he didn't. Instead, he met her gaze with a bemused expression as he waited for her to respond. Did he seriously want her to go to this dinner? She didn't know anything about the Beast. She didn't know who else would be there or what she would be getting herself into. It didn't seem like a good idea. She really didn't want to go, but she had the feeling the Beast wouldn't let up until she showed her face at one of his dinner parties. She had been hoping he would take the hint when none of his previous invitations were accepted, but apparently not. Belle sighed. She wasn't really interested in him, but she didn't want to be rude. A dinner party could be nice. I mean, who knows? Maybe Gaston was right. Maybe he wouldn't be that bad. By the time that night had rolled around, Belle buzzed around her home, excitedly getting ready for dinner with the Beast. The more she thought about it, the more it seemed like it could be fun. She never minded meeting new people, and from the little she knew about the Beast, he enjoyed reading almost, if not just as much, as she did. That would give them plenty to talk about. Ask her about her TBR, and Belle could ramble for hours. Maybe it would be a good time after all. When she pulled up to his exorbitantly large home a few hours later, the excitement had bubbled over into nervousness. What if the dinner went badly? What if he did all of this, made all this effort, just to realize that Belle isn't truly who he wanted or who he thought she was? What if, and this is what made her the most nervous, what if she ended up falling for him after all? What happens then? Belle glanced up at the structure. It was an eerie vibe. Even though it's still light outside, the sun didn't seem to reach the exterior, making it look darker and more ominous than Belle had been anticipating. She'd heard whispers about how weird the Beast was and how unsettling his home had seemed, but she hadn't considered that the rumors might have some truth to them. With timid steps, she carried herself to the front door. Maybe the inside wasn't as bad as the outside. As soon as she raised her fist to knock, the door swung open seemingly by itself. "Hello?" she called apprehensively. No one responded. Was she supposed to go in, or was she supposed to stand there and wait for someone to appear at the door? "Hello?" she called again. "Ma chérie mademoiselle, it is with the greatest and deepest pride and pleasure that we welcome you tonight." The voice boomed from somewhere in the shadows to her left. Belle glanced around, trying to find the source of the voice, but the only thing she could see was a large candelabra candlestick in the corner. Surely that wasn't what had spoken. Right? The talking inanimate object was just a silly rumor spread by townsmen who didn't understand who the Beast actually was. Right? "Who said that?" she called, trying and failing to mask the shakiness of her voice. The candelabra lurched forward unsteadily, dripping hot wax onto Belle's shoes. She jumped back in shock. It had eyes. They were bloodshot and unnaturally large, and it stared at her with a dead-eyed expression. "It was me, ma chérie. We are so glad you have come and decided to be our guest." "We?" Belle asked, looking around. There was no one else in the room. "Yes, my colleagues are grateful that you have come to keep us Company. An ugly smile spread across his face. Belle stared. Uneasiness crept up the back of her neck. Something was wrong with this house. Something was wrong with this candlestick. Come, he said. The candelabra jolted forward, causing Belle to stumble. When she stepped away from the front door, it slammed behind her with a loud clank. She turned and grabbed for the handle, but it was gone. I've changed my mind. Let me out, she shrieked, grasping frantically for something, anything, to open the door. The candelabra tilted slightly as if it was confused. Let you out, it asked. Wax dripped down the sides of its candles, and the flame on the top of its head flickered dangerously. There is no out. What do you mean? Just open the door. Just relax, he said, ignoring her protest. Pull up a chair as the dining room proudly presents your dinner. His words seemed stiff and rehearsed. Before Belle could respond, she was grabbed by something hard and sturdy. She twisted around, trying to get a glimpse of who or what it was that had grabbed her. Let me go, she yelled, trying unsuccessfully to break free of the grip. She never should have let Gaston talk her into coming to this house. She'd known in her gut that she had no interest in the beast or anything he had to offer, and yet she let Gaston talk her into going against her instincts. The air of the home smelled rotten, like something had died or grown spoiled before it could be disposed of, and the deeper Belle was dragged into the house, the more intense the smell became. Be your guest, put your service to the test. Tie your napkin round your neck and we'll provide the rest. Voices chanted around Belle, although she was unable to see who was speaking. The words of the song they were singing seemed cheerful and friendly, with a creepy undercurrent. It was almost too friendly. The candelabra moved toward her, its eyes still lifeless and cold. We're so happy you've come. Now we can finally be free. The curse will be lifted. Belle opened her mouth to protest and ask what curse he was talking about, but was cut off by a cloth being placed over her nose. Her body went limp, and the edges of her vision began to turn black. And as she faded into unconsciousness, all she could hear faintly behind her was, "Be our guest. Be our guest." To be continued. So yeah, that was part 1. Hang in there with me for part 2. It'll make sense in the end, I promise. So what did you think? Should we make Deranged Disney a thing? I mean, I'm going to finish this story because I've already started it, but after that, should we keep going? Should we find more Disney songs or no? It's up to you guys, really. If you're watching on YouTube, leave me a comment letting me know what you think and what Disney songs or movies you'd like me to see next or like me to do next. And if you're listening, feel free to find me on socials and let me know your thoughts. You can find me on Instagram under Lawrence Library Podcast, all one word, no capitals, or the Bookie Babe _. You can find me on TikTok and Facebook under the Bookie Babe. And if you're watching, the socials are actually on the screen. So, if you're not watching, you should be. Okay? Hit like and subscribe to the channel so I know it's real, you know? Basically, what I'm saying is, there are multiple ways to contact me if you want to talk books. But other than that, I will see you guys soon. Bye.